This is officially the first Planet Coaster video I've made since they announced Planet Coaster 2, and I have so much to talk about. Welcome back, guys, to Let's Build the Ultimate Indoor Theme Park. Today we're starting with a River Rapids ride that is going to wrap around the entirety of the coaster pit. But I'm building the station on the outside and we'll build an enclosure around it later. So, let me start from the beginning with this Planet Coaster 2 stuff. So to fill you in, if you don't know, I have just finished up a 3-month-long live stream marathon over on Twitch, and I spent over 600 hours live streaming over the past 3 months, and so now I'm coming back to some YouTube stuff. But after one of my live streams recently, I ended my stream, and then I looked at my Twitch homepage for a moment, and I noticed that Frontier, the makers of Planet Coaster, were streaming, and I was like, okay, what is this? So I clicked it, and it was just a black screen, and all you heard was crowd ambiance, just crowd talking, and everybody was like, what's going on? Why are you playing crowd ambience? Like, the Twitch chat was just confused. People were speculating, like, is this sound design from Planet Coaster 2? But overall, it was a bit strange. And then the next day, I streamed all day, finished my stream, looked at the Twitch page again, and wouldn't you know, Frontier, they're streaming again. So I click it, and this time the crowd ambience is playing, but there's one more sound effect playing as well. It was a chain lift for a roller coaster. And now the Twitch chat was going crazy. Everybody was like, nah, this has to be a Planet Coaster 2 announcement. There's no way that it's not. And I was getting all hyped out in the Twitch chat myself. I was like, I was also calling Planet Coaster 2 at that point. I'm like, nah, it has to be happening. The community has wanted it for far too long. And then I woke up the next morning to see that a trailer for Planet Coaster 2 had been dropped. Frontier said that it had listened to the community and they were giving us Planet Coaster 2, and I'm sure you all know this, but the main gimmick for Planet Coaster 2 is that they're adding water parks. And the great thing about this is not a unique concept. Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, about 15 years ago now, they had 2 DLC passes that included the Soaked expansion and the Wild expansion, which added water parks and zoos into your base theme park. I don't know if there's a big enough demand for a pure water park building game, so they have to lump it into the theme park, which I think is the best idea as well. Don't get me wrong, I think a pure water park game could be great, but from like an overall perspective, I think it's better when it's combined with theme parks. But back to the announcement. First off, I just want to say it was awesome just seeing the Planet Coaster community just spark back to life. All the other Planet Coaster creators that I follow on Twitter and YouTube were posting like heck of videos about Planet Coaster 2, tweeting all over the place. Everyone was feeling so inspired. People are already planning their theme parks and projects for when the game is dropped, because I guess the game is coming out this fall, 2024. So we're not even having to wait that long, which is really surprising. It doesn't seem like Frontier is the type of company that announces games like years ahead of time. But if Planet Coaster 2 is dropping this fall, that means I gotta get to work. I would love to finish this indoor theme park and finish the tour of it and the tour of the other Ultimate theme park before Planet Coaster 2 comes out. But now, let's talk about all the things that we know about Planet Coaster 2 thus far. First, let's start by talking more in depth about the water parks. So I grew up loving water parks. I had some great water parks around me in Missouri, and I was always pretty fond of them. Now that I'm older, I think they're a little bit gross, but apart from that, I think they're really awesome, and I've never had a bad time at a water park. The worst water parks I've been to have always been the ones that are attached to Six Flags. Those ones are just like never as funny. You have to like pay money for the tubes, from what I remember, which has always just felt really weird to me. But water parks being added to Planet Coaster is just great for theme park building overall, because there's such a huge overlap between the two, and so many theme parks out there also have water parks next to them. And if they don't have a water park, they will most likely have a resort that has pools or small water parks, hot tubs, spas, all that kind of stuff. So now just being able to build resorts and hotels is going to be so much more interesting. And I've built like pools in Planet Coaster before, but they're just not usable. So the fact that we're going to be able to build full resorts and hotels, like, it's also becoming a resort and hotel simulation game as well, if you think about it. So one of the reasons I am super excited about the water park expansion is because of Planet Zoo. And that's because one of the things that's in Planet Zoo that's not in Planet Coaster 1 is volumetric water. And what I mean by this is that in Planet Zoo, the water has actual liquid substance to it. And the reason they did this is because they have the animals swim through it and interact with it. So they wanted it to be very realistic. But in Planet Coaster, the water is literally just a 2D image sitting on the very top. If you go through that image, it's just air underneath the water. And I can only imagine that after all the years of them working on Planet Zoo, they have figured out an even better water engine. And one of the best things about these water upgrades for the game engine is that they could also possibly have real waterfall features and streams. Like, imagine having a little pool of water and then 30 feet away you have another pool of water that is maybe 10 or 20 feet lower, and then being able to cut a stream between the two and the water flows from the higher pool to the lower pool because of the water having actual volume to it. Right now in Planet Coaster 1, the waterfalls I think are very silly. They look good from certain angles, but then if you look at them from other angles, they just look very wacky. And if the water does function like this, I hope they add those types of water slides that they have at some water parks, where you sit in an inner tube and you start in like a small little pool, and then it takes you to a little slide that's like 5 feet long, and that slide takes you down into another little pool, and then you just like meander a little bit until you go down the next one, and it's just a bunch of little pools connected by like 5 to 10 foot long slides. It's kind of like a fusion between a lazy river and a water slide. You know what I'm talking about? I think we have confirmation on pretty much every other type of water slide out there though. They've confirmed that they're adding the half pipe water slide, the bowl, racing slides, tube slides, pretty much every other slide you can think of. But the one that I just listed is the only one that I don't think we have confirmation of that I would like to see added. Another thing I would love to have in theme parks is sidewalk fountains that the kids interact with. You know how at Universal Studios they have those sidewalks and there's a bunch of fountains that like squirt up in the air at different intervals and patterns, and there's kids running through them and just like trying to guess which one is going to come out of next or trying not to get wet and stuff. I think it'd be so much fun to add those to your theme parks and watch the child guests in the park like interact with and have fun with those fountains. But overall, from what I've seen, it seems like everything is going to be solid for the water park expansion. I'm not really sure where they could go wrong with it, especially because it was done so well in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. If they did it the same exact way as that, but in Planet Coaster, it would be perfect, but I'm sure they'll find other ways to make it even better and more creative. We also did get to see the mascot for the game, which, you know how the mascot on Planet Coaster is like this white ball with a roller coaster track wrapping around him? Well, in the second game, they're adding a white ball, but this time it's a girl, and she has a water slide wrapping around her. And, oh, they're the best. I love the mascots for the Planco universe. Okay, the next major upgrades they're adding that I have seen is something that is so exciting, and that is a scale feature for certain scenery pieces, or a tool to make scenery objects bigger or smaller, which is amazing. We don't fully know yet what extent this goes to and what scenery pieces this will affect, but it does seem that there is a scale feature to make things bigger and smaller, which creatively could be awesome, especially if they let you make things really big or really small. Like, people could literally make like dioramas inside their theme park. I really doubt they'll allow us to make our buildings bigger or smaller, but just imagine being able to like make a blueprint in Planet Coaster, some sort of building, saving it as a blueprint so it gets saved as one object, and then being able to scale that down and making a small version of the house, and you can make like little dioramas of your theme park within your theme park. I hope they allow you to make stuff pretty small though, because gift shops would be so much better if you could fill it with small versions of lots of the scenery pieces. Lots of objects that you could decorate your park with, if made small enough, could fit on a shelf and be used to fill up gift shops. Scalable scenery will make objects way more usable, and I've already seen people's imaginations get crazy with different scenery pieces and how they repurpose them. And if you could change the size, I know for a fact the community would do stuff that would just be mind-blowing. And then along with changing the scale, I was noticing that you can also change the color of so many more objects, such as rocks, trees, bushes, stuff like that. They're adding more colorability functions for even deeper customization, which, thank you for that. That's going to allow us to get a lot more weird. Another cool update that we saw is being able to connect scenery pieces to flat rides and having them move along with the flat ride. For example, imagine building a teacup ride, and then in the center of that teacup ride, building some sort of little sculpture in the very center and having it attached to the teacup ride, and whenever the teacup ride spins, the thing that you built that you attached to the teacup ride spins with it. Seems like that's going to be cool. I don't know how far that's going to go either, but that's cool. It also seems like they've updated the pathing system. The Planet Coaster pathing system is good, but it's not great. Like, people have a lot of problems with it, and it seems like they're changing the pathing system in the next game to allow you to build much larger open plazas that feel like they're not made by a bunch of noodly paths. I'd be very interested to see if they choose like a painting system for the paths, like just being able to paint them on the grounds like you're using the paintbrush for the grass or rock textures. And then you could use an erase brush to erase, say, a big circle in the middle of that path, and then in that big circle is where you put a ride or food or some scenery or something. If you added a path paintbrush along with the current pathing system that exists now, it would be elite. The next major thing to talk about is how they're updating the roller coasters in Planet Coaster 2. So the first really interesting thing is they're making it so you can customize the roller coaster trains. I don't know exactly how we're gonna do that. Maybe by adding decals and pictures and stuff like that. Very interested to see how that works. They also are having better coaster supports, more realistic coaster supports, and better coaster smoothing. I know that's going to be great for my coaster building because I think I build pretty smooth coasters, but lots of people claim that my coasters are not smooth enough. So a better smoothing tool sounds right up my alley. And then as far as new coaster elements, the one that they have confirmed is drop tracks, which a drop track is an element where the train comes to a complete stop and then the track lowers down like an elevator and it takes it to a different track, usually used for sort of storytelling moments. The one coaster element that a lot of people are still requesting that we haven't got confirmation of is switch tracks or transfer tracks, which is where the train goes on like a Y-type path. It goes up and then it starts going backwards, and when it goes backwards it switches and takes it down a different path. Both more modern and interesting coaster elements. I mentioned the water from Planet Zoo earlier, but there's other things from Planet Zoo that they're adding into Planet Coaster 2 as well that are going to be really cool to see. First thing is dynamic weather, such as rain and snow. In the Planet Coaster universe, for the first game, it's always perfect weather all the time. But they added a weather system in Planet Zoo that they are going to implement into Planet Coaster. The other big feature from Planet Zoo that they're transferring over is utility management, such as having to build transformers for power and piping for water and water filtration systems to keep the pools clean. These are things that were not in Planet Coaster that they introduced into Planet Zoo, and that we will see also being moved over to Planet Coaster. People have kind of mixed feelings about these additions because although it's not always the most fun to have to worry about utilities when building a fake theme park, But on the flip side, it is something that kind of fills your theme park out realistically, and then it takes effort to have to use scenery to blend those power transformers and water filtration systems into your park. The next big thing to discuss is the better graphics. So they're improving the graphics by quite a bit. The major thing being it's going to run stably at 60 frames per second, which does have me worried because in the PC version of Planet Coaster, there is not a building limit. You can add as much as you want to the theme park. Your only limitation is until your computer crashes. But on the console version, they do have a limit to make sure that the game can run on console. And they have announced that Planet Coaster 2 will come out on PC and console at the same time. So I'm really afraid that they might implement a scenery piece limit onto the PC version this time to make it run more stably, especially if they're going to improve the lighting and water and stuff. We'll see what happens. I'm very hopeful that they still just say, nah, you can build to your heart's content. Another reason I'm worried though is because another feature they're adding is cross-platform park sharing to Planet Coaster 2, allowing you to transfer your parks between PC and the console versions of the game back and forth. In the first version of Planet Coaster, since the console version came out several years after the base PC version, you were not able to do this. But because of this feature being in Planet Coaster 2 and them trying to make sure that parks work on both versions potentially, that is another reason why I'm afraid of a scenery piece limit. So please, Frontier, do not put a scenery piece limit on a PC version of Planet Coaster 2. I beg you. Next super amazing update is they're adding better dynamic lighting and a new feature that's going to be added to the game to coincide with that is shade and sunscreen, meaning that if you don't build shade for your guests to stand in when they're waiting in line for coasters or for water slides or while walking around, they could get sunburned unless you're able to sell them sunscreen. Or maybe we'll be able to sell them umbrellas, because if they're adding weather and they can also get burnt by the sun, that's like a dual purpose reason to add umbrellas to the next game, which means more things to sell and make money in our parks. Now, this improved dynamic lighting should also mean that we're going to see a much requested lighting upgrade to Planet Coaster that they never added to Planet Coaster 1. And this is the ability to make dark rides that function properly during the daytime. Currently in Planet Coaster 1, to make a dark ride work properly and for it to be actually dark, it either needs to be built underground or surrounded with a bunch of terrain, or you have to ride it during the nighttime. But if you build a building or structure around the ride, it's not going to be dark indoors during the daytime. The light is still able to go through the walls and ceilings, and it's, yeah, as you can see, like, look at the building we're in right now. We're indoors, but it still looks like we're outdoors. It's a little bit shadier, but not an indoor type of shade. So we will see if Planet Coaster 2 makes the indoor lighting way more realistic. But since they're adding a shade and sunscreen feature, I am to bet that they probably are. Frontier also announced that they're adding a first-person play mode, which I'm assuming this means you can take control of a person and run around the park through their eyes. I still think it would be amazing if they added this feature and allowed you to do this with multiple friends in a theme park together. Now, they have confirmed that they're not adding multiplayer that allows you to build on the same theme park at the same time, but I do still have hope that they might add a feature that allows you to explore and hang out in your theme park together in co-op. And the last piece of information I know currently about Planet Coaster 2 to discuss right now is they have announced the 5 base scenery themes that will be in the base Planet Coaster 2 game. These include the original Planco scenery, or more of a generic theme. The second will be mythology, which we don't have mythology in Planet Coaster 1. The most similar we have is the adventure pack, which allows us to build sort of like Mayan temples, but I don't think there's anything that allows us to build cool Roman or Greek themed areas. The third is resort, which I'm assuming resort is sort of a tiki or tropical, sort of Caribbean or islander type of theme. You know, the type of scenery you would typically see at most water parks, which is like tiki torches, bamboo walls, leaves and palm trees for everything, that type of aesthetic. The fourth theme is aquatic, which is like fish, coral, seaweed, things that you would build to create an underwater aesthetic. And the fifth scenery theme is Viking, which I think Viking is pretty good. It's sort of a mixture of pirate and Western. I think there's lots of pieces that could be made for Viking scenery that could be transferred to other themes as well. And I'm assuming they're gonna have another rollout of a bunch of DLCs, just like Planet Coaster 1 and Planet Zoo did. I think Planet Zoo possibly had more DLC packs than Planet Coaster 1, so I'm kind of hoping that Planet Coaster 2 will have an even longer development cycle and release cycle for DLC than Planet Coaster 1 or Planet Zoo. Which that's going to actually bring me up to today's comment question of the day. Now that we know the 5 scenery themes releasing in the base game, Original Planco, Mythology, Resort, Aquatic, and Viking, what are the 2 scenery themes that you hope we see in the first 2 Planet Coaster 2 DLCs? Let me know in the comments below. Now, a few more things to throw out about Planet Coaster 2 that they have not announced yet, but I'm hoping heavily that we see, are carnival games. I need some carnival games, bottle throw, basketball, ladder climb, that good stuff. I would love parades. Give me some good parades, come on. Drone shows. We do have fireworks shows, but adding potential options for drone shows would be really cool. I don't think we'd be able to like customize our own shape, but having some pre-rendered drone shapes and stuff that you can choose from would be super cool. I think some more options for building base buildings would be cool. I don't know if they could somehow incorporate a building structure like The Sims and having like a switch between the traditional building and like a more Sims building style. I think that would help a lot of people out when trying to build stuff. And then lastly, this is a small thing, but can we get a lot more fonts? The base font library in Planet Coaster 1 is laughably small and terrible. You have to import your own custom signs that you made in Photoshop as billboards into this game if you want to have a decent looking font. Or even just the option to upload our own fonts. Because if I can upload my own fonts into Photoshop, Adobe, or Microsoft Word, how come I can't upload and install custom fonts into Planet Coaster? And the last thing I can think of is on-ride photos. We have not got any confirmation for on-ride photos. Apart from that, they have already confirmed so much in a Planet Coaster 2 that I am already hands down so excited. It's gonna be awesome. Now, I haven't talked about our building process at all this episode. I've kind of just been letting the footage run in the background while I gush about Planet Coaster 2, because these Ultimate Theme Park series have also been a documentation of the chronological evolution of the Planet Coaster franchise. So whenever there's big Planet Coaster news, I make that my first priority when it comes to my discussion topic for the video. I do love everything that we built today though. The River Rapids ride is looking fun. It fills the coaster pit up nicely. We got a lot of scenery done for it. We probably still need like one more full episode to fully decorate the rest of it. But so far, she's looking beautiful. And I am feeling on fire for Planet Coaster again now that we got this sequel announcement. I will see you guys with another episode soon. We're just going to continue decorating this place out. And I'm going to try to finish this indoor theme park before Planet Coaster 2 comes out. So thank you all so much for watching. Hit the thumbs up button, don't forget to do that. And I'll see you all in the next one. Have a great day.